With Dunkin' Go-Tos, you can get a great deal on two of your favorites, like 2 egg and cheese wraps for $2, 2 bagels with cream cheese spread for $4, and 2 bacon, egg, and cheese croissants for $5. In my opinion, it's a deal that's pretty tough to beat. That's just if you want my go-to cents. If you don't want my go-to cents, it's go too late. Dunkin' Go-Tos, a great deal for $2, $4, or $5. America runs on Dunkin'. Participation may vary. Limited time offer. Exclusions apply.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to a Radulich Broadcasting Network premiere podcast, Damn You Hollywood. And here's your host. He'll grab you right in the kittens. Ladies and gentlemen, he's science accurate, Mr. Wizard, Robert Winfree. Yay!
Okay, I get the last two. What in the world is grab you by the kittens?
You obviously didn't watch Stephen Colbert's show last night.
I would rather jam toothpicks into my eye than watch Stephen Colbert.
I'm sorry. I have been laughing about it's shaped like a mitten. He'll grab you in the kittens all evening. I watched that video while we were eating dinner out tonight, and I'm Mark Radulich. Hi, everybody. That's Alexis Hejna. Hi, everybody. I'm eating dinner with my family. They go to the bathroom, and me and my son are just hanging at the table. And I see the video, and I'm like, "Hey, Jonas, let's watch this. This will be funny." And he was like, "Yeah, it's fine. It's that guy from that show you showed me once," which broke my heart. Meanwhile, I see him do the bit on.
No, that's the appropriate response.
I see the bit on Trump, and then he's like, "Michigan shaped like a mitten." He's the guy who said, he's the guy on the bus that said, "I'll grab you in the kitten." I almost fell off my chair laughing.
Robert, let me put it this way: you're an Animaniacs fan, right?
Yes. I don't know anyone with a soul who isn't.
Okay, good. You're familiar with Wacko's America, right?
Not a joke. Genuinely helped me memorize state capitals when I was in elementary school.
Yeah, me too. Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Oh, God, I was in high school when that came on. I'm so old.
You're 10 years older than I am. That's all we...
Wow. Yeah.
Okay, last night, Colbert did a bit...
No, I saw you talking about it, so I understand the context.
Yeah, responding to Trump's comments about the 4 congressmen...
hang on.
They need to go back.
It wasn't about them. He made a general comment. They assumed it was about them.
Because they're horrible, narcissistic, and half of them are anti-Semites.
I just want to be accurate here. He made a comment. It was taken and inferred to mean it was about them. He did not mention them by name. And then
and look, lest anyone accuse me of being an overly partisan hack, I'm not a fan of Trump either. So
no, but you will grab him. No, but you'll not only grab him in the kittens, you'll grab him in the biscuits. That's a Digital Underground reference. Hey, the Prodigal Son has returned. Jason Teasley, what's it all about, sir?
I'm here listening about grabbing kittens.
I'm sorry.
And by the way, it's not Digital Underground. It's a Sir Mix-a-Lot.
No. I'm the one that said just grab him in the biscuits is Digital Underground.
Yeah, it's Humpty Dance.
That's right.
I was going buttermilk biscuits.
Buttermilk biscuits, y'all. That's right. That's Sir Mix-a-Lot.
I know the entire song.
You are now my new favorite person, and prior to that, Alexis was just because of the kittens thing.
All right. No, Robert, all you need to know is that Colbert last night, they did a new version of Wacko's America with new lyrics, responding to these supposed accusations. And yes, what was the line? Like, This one's from Michigan, shaped like a mitten. On a bus in California, used to grab him by the kitten.
We've wasted almost 5 minutes on this.
Loosely related. Did you see the updated version of Yakko naming all the countries in the world that Rob Paulson did?
Oh, hell yes.
Because he actually fixed it
goal.
after the Soviet Union collapsed and added all the new countries.
It is my goal in life to be able to actually sing that verbatim from memory.
Just take it.
It is on my bucket
Plug
list.
mine in, okay.
I could do the old one. I used to be able to do the old one, but after the Soviet Union collapsed, after that one went down, like, okay, fine. I'll have to go through it again, but I could get pretty far into that. I got pretty deep. All right.
I can do like the first two parts, and then when he gets to the third one and starts naming African countries, I die.
Well, I could make a bad joke there, but I'm going to restrain myself.
Please don't.
I almost said so as Africans, but no.
Oh, no.
And there we go with making subtext actual text.
And there go the last few listeners we actually had.
All right, so for all of you white men that are still listening.
Anyone listening to us is like, look, the fact that large swaths of Africa are politically unstable and prone to genocidal activity is not exactly a controversial proposition. It's a statement of reality.
I have it on good authority. We're big in Canada and parts of Europe. Hey, can we get on with this now?
Yeah, assuming the analytics we get are correct. I mean, if we have to, all right.
Oh my
today
God.
on Damn You Hollywood, we will be discussing Crawl. And
So let me set this up. So
Okay.
this wasn't on the schedule originally. This week I kind of dedicated the entire week to things revolving around Doom Patrol, but that left a Tuesday spot open. And when I saw the trailer for this, I was like, Sam Raimi, alligators, hurricane. I'm in love with this movie and have to see it. And it went on the schedule partially to accommodate Robert Winfree's love for horror, partially to accommodate my love for disaster films, and because I think being eaten by an alligator in the middle of a Category 5 hurricane is funny. I've also found that anything involving hurricanes to me is funny. Earlier this year, I saw that heist movie that was involved, the hurricane heist, and I literally went because fast wind. So, like, that's how this ended up on the schedule. It's a little off the beaten path for Damn You Hollywood, but hey, what's life without variety, right, Robert?
yeah, let me just I need to say this very briefly. One, I should have put up more of a fight about this movie if I'd done even like an iota of research into it, but I didn't because I'm stupid. And I will explain to all you people. Like, I had one of those moments. I assume you're all familiar with that meme of this is the exact moment so and so realized he done effed up. I had one of those. I had one of those sitting in the theater. The moment Alexander Aja's name came up as the director, I heard it in my head. It was at this moment, because Aja has, to put it kindly, a checkered filmography.
Aw,
When he's-
somebody doesn't like Piranha 3D.
I kind of enjoy that actually for what it is. I hate his take on The Hills Have Eyes. Genuinely loathe that movie.
Has that man made
haven't
anything I've seen?
Probably not.
Probably not.
Doubt it. I mean, look, I love High Tension. Really. Great movie. For a great horror movie. Genuinely love it. I can enjoy Piranha 3D as a schlockfest, fair enough. Between The Hills Have Eyes, him being the writer of P2, and Mirrors.
Was he responsible for Anaconda?
No.
Damn it.
We have
And-
yet to track down who's responsible for that, so you could give them proper justice.
I loved Anaconda.
And look, Horns, I don't know, man. I'm torn on Horns because there's stuff about it that works, but I think trying to turn it into a whodunit was a big miss. I also really enjoy the source material because Joe Hill is a pretty darn good author. So, point being, Aja is, at best kind of 50-50, I suppose. But when he misses, he really misses. So I knew it. As soon as his name came up, I'm like, all right, I know what I'm in for.
Mark, all you really need to know about this director is that in Piranha 3D starts out with a scene with Richard Dreyfuss on a boat singing "Show Me the Way to Go Home" before he is eaten by piranhas.
That's such a
Why
good
aren't
scene.
we talking about this movie then?
Because you have to see it in 3D,
Okay.
and B, it's pure schlock crap.
Hi, I'm Mark. Have we
entirely
met?
Gimmick. There's actually a scene where a chick vomits at the camera.
Awesome.
There's a scene where a piranha eats a guy's dick off and then coughs up the part of the dick. And again, it's
And
stuff when
re-eats
you see
it.
it in 3D.
Okay, so
They
we're
really
gonna
keep
stop
it underground.
we're gonna stop the podcast and we're doing a watch along to Piranhas. Then we'll come back.
I don't think you can find it. Again, I don't think it's not rendered in 3D anywhere.
Oh, nuts.
It used to be.
Yeah, it's
I think it
not
used to be on Hulu
3D.
or Netflix. I have seen
It was on Netflix.
Okay.
It's look, if you want to indulge in that, there's also a overly long gratuitous nudity scene that takes place entirely underwater, where two women hold their breath 8 times longer than is physically possible.
Well, overly long gratuitous nudity is my middle name.
No, it's not.
And speaking of holding your breath overly longer, let's get back to the show.
All right, hit me with that sweet, sweet plot synopsis there, Jeeves.
Hey, this is going to divulge in another Pet Cemetery.
No, the fuck,
Retrospect, I believe.
no,
I
the
was actually
fuck,
thinking
it's
the
not.
same thing. It's like
No, children. I'm in charge tonight. I'm here to stop the nonsense. This is my daycare, and I have another goddamn. What am I doing tomorrow? Biopsy's Thursday. I'm having my line taken out tomorrow. No, children. We will attend to the appropriate time constraints.
Well, let me know how that plays out for you.
Oh gosh.
Anyway,
Have you done a show with me before, Mark?
Yes. I'll just wait for you to fall asleep, and we'll play the credits. Hit it, Winfree.
all right. As for the plot of this, God. There's a hurricane in Florida. A star swimmer, because water, goes to find her quasi-estranged father, who is trapped in the crawl space under their house in Florida. I will say this, Barry Pepper does a damn good Florida man. He is trapped under the crawl space in this house by a couple of very large alligators. They then are both trapped as the floodwaters start rising by these alligators. They try to figure a way out. Nothing works. A few people get eaten. There's actually a lot more alligators than are initially thought to be. I meant to look this up, actually, but because I wanted to see if there's a special name for a group of alligators.
A gaggle.
way too many alligators.
Gaggle of gators.
It's a congregation, actually.
Because now I think all alligators are Baptists, and they're singing and they're go on.
I'm sure you'll make a great crappy movie pitch based around that premise in the near
I've
future.
already pictured it in my head. I'm gonna see if I can sell it to Disney. I just gotta find the appropriate thing to say.
They already made it. It's the Frog Princess.
What? No, I'm thinking My Blue Heaven, but with gators.
Dude, you're gonna pitch Song of the South with the Gators, and we both know it.
Well, maybe for the follow-up.
Whatever
All right.
happened to staying focused?
I know how to distract Mark appropriately. Let me work. So there's a large congregation of large alligators. Yes, redundant adjective. And they cause havoc. There's a few bits of biting. The bite physics on these things are just whoever wrote this and did this has no idea how actual alligator bites function. They do eventually get out of the basement after Barry Pepper displays superhuman strength by splitting an alligator's skull open with a shovel and having no wind-up room.
On one good leg.
Look, he lost an arm by the end of this movie. When they got him to the hospital, they took the leg. Come on. That was not...
He would have never made it. He would have never made it to the hospital.
Hey, Mr. Wizard and Son, get through the plot synopsis, and then we can talk about how nothing in this movie works that way, including the weather.
Oh, God. There's actually a scene where the palm fronds on a palm tree are blowing one way and the trunk's being pushed the other by theoretically the same wind. It's so bad.
This was Hurricane Schizophrenia. Move the fuck on.
I will move along at my pace. Because nothing works. They eventually do get out. There are levees nearby that break, causing more flooding. They wind up still kind of stranded in this house. More gator attacks. Barry Pepper loses an arm. And somehow no blood. I want to say there was a running gag in the writer's room for this movie that would just put a tourniquet on it. Because they seem to think that's a cure-all for everything. It's not. They eventually do make their way to the roof of this house. They're rescued. Theoretically, some sort of personal progress happens, and the alligators are swept away to terrorize people during the rebuilding of this part of Florida after what has to be the mildest Category 5 hurricane ever. I mean...
You forgot to mention she finds, like, a nest somewhere in the...
Because that's the actual dumbest thing.
That they do nothing with, and I want to come back to talk about that because it's like my one complaint about the movie. But yeah, they make this big honking deal about the fact that she found a nest of alligator eggs, and then forgot that she found the nest of alligator eggs and went on to continue to do the same thing she'd been doing.
Hatches. You see one hatch with a baby gator come out of it, and then nothing.
Yeah. All right. So that's
there's not a lot of plot here. It's kind of stupid as far as that goes.
They get rescued at the end. They make it to the roof of the house. A helicopter comes, and then we get "See You Later, Alligator" in a moment that had me gasping for air. I was laughing so hard. And
I was going to say, can we all at least agree that the choice of song for the credits was freaking perfect?
It really was. My father turned to look at me and he goes, "I hate you for making me bring you to this." And I'm pretty sure he was thinking, "I hope the cancer takes you." So Jason, nothing. Come on. All right. Thank you, somebody. Jason, you have the most to say out of all of us, so I'm going to just give you the floor.
All right. First and foremost, I'm just going to touch on where I know the most about. Being a first responder, the human body does not work that way.
Thank you.
You actually bleed. Your body will go into shock. The human eye cannot see underwater that clearly with what we've seen at the beginning, about 3-4 inches of mud. Water is not that clear, and your eyes will not see that clearly. So, also, when you get bit by an alligator on your leg does not proceed to work just as it had before the bite.
Hang on, I have a theory about that. This movie takes place...
You should be able to at least be slowed down.
Okay, hang on. I have a theory. I'm going to let you continue, but I had a theory about this because my brother brought up the same thing. How are people not losing limbs left and right in this movie? This takes place in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. They're mutants. This is a family with fast-healing factors.
What did I tell you? We have X-Men.
I'm good. We're all on the same page. Continue.
I'm pretty sure that this is how the X-Men were introduced to the MCU. Because, one, if you get bit on the leg like that, there's going to at least be blood. Like I said, it's going to impede your mobility. And you're possibly going to lose that leg.
Almost.
Also, it only showed what a gator will actually do when it bites you once. They will roll you until they drown you. They will not. They not just really bite and hold on
like that.
No, and if they do shake like that, you're going to at least come away with a mild concussion or some abrasions. You're not going to be perfectly fine.
Or part of you is going one way and part of you is going down the alligator's throat into its stomach.
I feel like we were introduced to Namor the Submariner, but female casted instead of male casted.
No.
Also, the physics of putting an ATM machine in a boat that small.
That's so true. That's so true.
And the CGI of the alligator eating her on said boat.
Yep.
looked like a 5-year-old done it with hate on Microsoft.
There is some shockingly bad CGI in this movie.
I don't think that was CGI. I'm pretty sure that was just somebody wearing a gator costume humping that woman's leg.
I'm pretty sure that was a hand puppet.
Would have looked better. Would have looked better with a hand puppet.
I'm pretty sure that might have been a hand puppet, and just the only thing I could think of why that was going on is, oh God, Robert just threw something at the screen.
No, I didn't, but it was a near thing. I almost threw something at the people in the row in front of me, though. They would not shut up.
I couldn't stop. I had to stop eating popcorn because I was laughing too hard.
Oh, I'm lucky that there was only me and 3 other people in the theater when I went and seen it yesterday. And the whole, I kind of got really nervous when the dog goes swimming down the hallway.
They can't kill the dog.
I was really going to be upset. But
Dude,
then
I was ready to text you if they killed the dog. Don't bother seeing this movie. Don't come to the review. You're gonna hate it.
Then
it's one of the rules. Like you can't kill the dog if you're dealing with any sort of property that is meant to appeal to the Western audience. You don't kill kids. You very rarely kill kids, and you absolutely do not kill dogs. It's a rule.
With the exception of the Babadook and Planet Terror.
Again, it can happen. It's just it has to be part of the buy-in that everyone kind of knows this is the type of movie that will do something that terrible.
All right, continue,
and the
Jason.
Babadook absolutely would.
Let's see what other issues was I screaming at during the movie? There was a lot. Also, and when you shoot a gun into a gator's mouth, it's probably not going to take 6 shots.
No, like if it takes more than 2, you have so badly aimed it that you're just hitting nothing but soft tissue.
And then the drain pipe.
Rubber.
Another thing was, did you guys notice when she first got over there and looked down the drain pipe, there was only maybe a foot of water in it? Then when she goes to get in the drain pipe, it's completely filled up. You actually, when she first sees it as a gator actually walking down the drain pipe, and then 2 minutes pass and it's filled up, that really baffled me. The fact that
the water physics in this are not consistent.
The fact that she was able to outswim multiple gators.
Yeah, that was. You're faster than them. No, you're not. While after getting attacked and having your leg almost split off, slung around like a rag doll, and you have no physical ailments due to it. You put a tourniquet on it. That clearly solves everything.
Yeah, the tourniquets in this movie are like the equivalent of a magic bag of holding. They solve all the problems.
A bag of holding will not solve all your problems. These are better than a bag of holding.
The fact that the air bubbles were able to be felt by an alligator with that massive amount of rain coming down.
Why they turned the alligator into like a crappier version of the T-Rex from Jurassic Park? His visual acuity is based on movement. It only hunts by hearing splashes.
This is another question I have.
Idiots.
The boat at the gas station was still there.
I know. Again, there
Where
is.
did the police boat go?
It wasn't weighed down with an ATM machine. An ATM.
Well, the ATM machine was off the boat because she just hops on it and takes off.
I couldn't begin to make sense of this movie.
And lastly, I'll shut up after this. When he gets his arm bit, one, that gator is a significant large gator. It carries weight. It is not going to grab and bend your arm and do joint manipulation until your arm comes off.
Look, who are you to doubt this Gator's black belt in jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, that Gator was clearly George St. Gator.
No. Look,
I think it was
the Gator actually finished the arm attack. GSP, not so much. Love you, George.
I mean, did Ronda Rousey teach him an armbar technique? I mean, and the biggest thing that I took out of it was the lack of blood after a bite.
Yep.
There was none. You're going to bleed. Your body will go into shock.
You're failing to recognize these people were clearly vampires.
Stop it, Mark.
They're either vampires, mutants. Well, she was an apex predator, and they wanted to remind you of that multiple times.
All day long, motherfucker.
It was a bold choice to go with a non-physically deformed female version of Killer Croc, but I think it paid off for it.
I'm serious. I was waiting for Robert Pattinson to come in.
Said no one ever.
All right.
Oh, I mean, and of course she had to be a swimmer. Why couldn't she just been something? But no, she had to be a swimmer and prove herself that she is the apex predator better than gators.
That's screenwriting 101, baby. Alexis Hejna, what did you love about this movie? Tell me all the things.
Okay, I will agree with you guys on a handful of things. Yeah, the CGI wasn't that great. I thought it was okay in some of the darker scenes. The lighter scene, like when she's swimming underneath the gators and you get a clearer view of them in the clear water. Yeah. Admittedly, that wasn't that great. I did like how the dialogue was written. We were discussing this last week with Spider-Man and the concept of the exposition dump. But I liked how they established a handful of things. They're talking, the father and his are talking. She's like, keep talking to me, Dad, to calm down. And he asks how school's going, and she's talking about, potentially losing her scholarship and stuff. And it didn't feel forced. I understand the idea. It's like, keep talking to me. It'll, help me focus. Okay, well, what about this? She's like, oh, God, I got to talk about that. I like the dialogue between the two. I really did. So physics may have taken a backseat in this movie, but I thought the script was on point.
All right, so obviously this movie was nonsense, but I didn't go into this expecting it to be, National Geographic or the Weather Channel or anything like that. I didn't expect it to be physics accurate. I expected to have fun with gators biting people. I expected her to be comfortably protected by plot armor. She's the star of the fucking movie. If they killed her in the first scene, where were they going to go? So I thought this followed the traditional horror slasher motif, in the sense of you have a lot of other characters who you don't care about and you want to see get killed by the monster, getting killed by monsters. But your classic female horror heroine, your scream queen, takes a significant amount of damage, an unrealistic amount of damage, to then survive at the end. But she's an okay gal. She's not somebody who I wanted to see get killed by a gator.
Hey, did you recognize the actress?
No, where's she from?
Come on, you and I both sat through extremely that Ted Bundy thing, right?
Oh, that's her. That's right. Yeah. Okay.
She's the second Carol Ann, I think it was. Credit to the makeup team on that movie, mind you, because she does not look very similar to her natural appearance at all.
So, look, a couple of things I'll say about this, and then I'll throw it to Robert to tell you how much, what a pile of trash it was. I thought that the director's job in this was, one, give you a significant amount of fun and creative kills to keep you interested, to create atmosphere, which I think they were largely successful in, create tension, which I think they were largely successful. Despite being unrealistic, when the gators bit, these were fun, these were exciting, these were terrifying moments. I thought the limited cast, the father and the daughter, and then like a handful of people, a handful of gator meat. really did do a significant job of convincing you they were in a terrifyingly awful situation with no clear way of getting out. You know, they were trapped in a haunted house with monsters. I mean, there isn't much to this movie, but what there is, I thought was done well. There are absolutely a couple of spotty CGI moments.
Couple.
But I thought there were equally just as many passable CGI moments where the gators looked terrifying. And what they were doing looked awful. That being said, this was a 90-minute idea presented in just about 90 minutes. I thought it moved pretty swiftly. I thought each set piece seemed to make sense. I thought it flowed. So, craft-wise, I think if you get away from it's horribly unrealistic, so is a guy entering your dreams and killing you. So is a zombie chasing you with a chainsaw. A lot of these, so is a doll coming to life and murdering people because it's possessed by a serial killer. I mean,
that last one actually is based on a true story.
Shut the fuck up.
Better than AI killing you because of jealousy.
Fair enough. The point is, this wasn't the Weather Channel presents What Happens in a Hurricane, Beware of Gators. This was a horror movie with monsters chasing you through a haunted house with the added element of water. And so as long as they got the craft elements right of that kind of movie, which I think they were largely successful in, then I think the movie itself is largely successful. I had great fun watching. I wasn't bored. And I think it met the expectation. I think it met the passable expectation going into a movie like this. I think if you expected more, you were going to be let down. And if you expected nothing, it went well over that. Robert?
All right, a few things. One, when this movie does work, is actually, I think, kind of after the gator reveal, when they're kind of dealing with the reality of being trapped in this. I'm not even going to call that a crawl space. I've been in crawl spaces. If you can reasonably stand up, it ain't a crawl space. Is that an accurate depiction of crawl spaces within Florida, Mark?
No.
Most Florida houses don't have basements, do they?
That's not a basement. That's
the crawl space, like where the foundation is.
Well, here's the thing. I don't know about like some older Florida homes. Like I know mine is a concrete slab. There's nothing underneath my house except concrete because houses after a certain point had to be made like hurricane proof, basically. Clearly, that house was like pre those hurricane requirements. So. So if it was like an old Florida cracker house, some of them are kind of raised like that, but we're talking maybe a few inches off the ground, and you literally have to belly crawl through the whole thing. You can't stand up in those.
I was actually wondering the same thing, especially with all the holes where the water was draining through. I was wondering if that was possibly something built to help the water pass underneath the house in the case of a high flood area. I didn't really know if homes were built like that or not. I've heard a lot of people saying that's not the way those are built, and most of those people live in Massachusetts. So
that's why I asked Mark, because I've never seen one, but I've also never had to install anything in Florida that would make me go into a crawl space.
Most of the places, let me say two things. One, most of the places where I live, it's newer home construction, and like I said, they're built on concrete slabs meant to withstand at least, I think, a Category 3 hurricane. Number one. Number two, let's think about the engineering of this. So you build this crawl space, you have all these electrical wires underneath, and then water's supposed to pass through there. Seems dangerous.
Yep.
I just got a question. Why does she literally crawl going to her dad?
I know. Like that first
time
she gets
down there. She was able to stand up to drag her dad.
It's very clear that there is enough clearance between between the ground and the flooring of this house that you could stand and you'd have to hunch, but you don't have to crawl. And instead, she spends that whole time crawling.
It creates atmosphere and tension.
Maybe
Sure.
it was meta for the title.
I do
In case
think that this movie did a really good job of setting up atmosphere, and I'm not going to lie. I think the scene that got me actually squirming in my seat the most, besides a handful of the gator bites, was the scene when she's trying to push up through the trap door and all those spiders fell on her face.
Oh,
Ooh,
if that
Jesus.
that could have been great if the CGI hadn't looked like a bad Instagram filter.
First, yeah, I thought it was fleas. Number one, that's how bad that looked.
It's so bad.
Okay, so hang on. There was one thing I forgot to mention. This is actually my only complaint because it's a craft element, not the it doesn't work that way Mr. Wizard thing that you guys are obsessed with. And that is, if you put something in a movie, it needs to have a payoff of some kind or lead to something else. And if not, then cut it. So when she crawls into that, when she crawls into like that drainage area where the alligators have clearly built a nest, I thought we were going to get a scene where she gets attacked by baby gators. Like they were going to hatch and jump on her, and she was going to have them on her arms and her legs, and she was going to wiggle. It was like, get them off me, and pull them off, and it was going to be it was going to be gross and things like that. That's where I thought we were going. Or she was going to get chased by a gaggle of baby gators, or she was going to kill them with a hammer, and the mama gator was going to walk in and going, oh, my babies, and like go after her. Any one of those things would have been acceptable. What's not acceptable and what's shit screenwriting is nothing happened. It was there, kind of and then it's promptly forgotten about, and then we're on to the next thing.
Especially since one of them did hatch and you've seen it crawl out of the egg.
Right, and then apparently it went on walkabout somewhere.
Okay, I actually thought that those were more of a storytelling device to show that the gators had been there longer, and there was probably going to be more gators than she realized.
Right,
That's what I thought the purpose of the eggs were.
But again, then I think you need to play off that some, because I don't think it added or I don't think it added or subtracted from the fact that we clearly saw there were more gators than just the two. I mean, at one point, one of the cops is ripped to shreds by like 4 or 5 different gators. You have the one you had the one that was trying to drive the boat and take the ATM machine for itself.
I mean, hey, if you can actually manage to crack it open.
Yeah, that alligator was gangster.
I wonder if that gator's nickname on for the CGI team was Ben.
So yeah, I don't feel like they did enough with the nest of eggs to make it relevant. I'd have cut that scene, quite frankly. All right, Robert, continue.
So again, some of the stuff that takes place in the crawl space before it gets really stupid is quite good, and is the stuff that, when the movie works, I think that's where it actually works. I think they spend too long. You either need to really commit and the entire movie is spent there, or it just dragged a little bit for me. And again, in a 90-minute movie, nothing should feel like it drags, but some of that kind of did. I have to do a few things about none of this works this way, because there's a few that are just so bad, I feel they have to be discussed. Okay, one, let's talk about alligators.
Let's.
Alligators do not mate for life. When an alligator nests, the mother will actually try to drive off every other alligator because they will eat the babies. They're quasi-cannibalistic. So if there's a nest, there's no other gators. Like, the mom will go out of her way to make sure it's somewhat secluded. So if there's actually a nest, there's no other alligators. Not within a reasonable distance. And again, if the counter-argument is, but it's the dad gator, the dad would eat them. Like, that's not how alligators work. 2, when we're talking about alligators. The physics of an alligator bite. And I will be very brief with this, because we've talked a little bit already about how they bite and they don't really shake like that. They tend to twist. The danger from an alligator bite is not really the teeth. They're bad, not pleasant, but it's the actual kind of blunt force of compression that is the real danger, combined with, again, the minor puncturing abilities that its teeth possess. Alligators bite absurdly hard. If an alligator chomps onto you, it's not going to let go until it until it tears something off of you. That's just not gonna happen. So every time it bites and then lets go, or bites and shakes, and you can get away with that with sharks a little bit because sharks take exploratory bites. Yeah, gators, no. They chomp down and they are all in. That's it. Just, all right, we're going to town on this.
Are they Double or Nothing?
Are you making a wrestling joke?
I am. Are they Fighter Fest? Are they fighting for the fallen?
Shame on you.
The people who like the wrestling podcast that we do thought that was really funny.
No, they didn't.
And
I was just going to say that's Radulich and Bingo.
Pretty close. So, again, the way they bite is very, very different. And, again, the number of gators, I'm a little bit iffy, but I'll allow parts of it to just kind of go on because... How do I phrase this? I understand that you do have to bend the rules of biology and behavior for animals like this to make them fit within the horror setting. Sharks don't behave like the shark in Jaws. Anacondas don't behave like the anacondas. Piranhas have never if memory serves, there has not actually been a proven case of piranhas ever killing a human being.
I have a question. What about motherfucking snakes on a What about motherfucking snakes on motherfucking planes? Do they behave that way?
No.
Yeah.
However,
well, you have to remember they also sprayed all the lays with hormones.
Yeah, this is one of those things about snakes on a plane that I appreciate about the screenwriting. Unironically,
Yeah, warning snakes on a plane.
they go out of their way to come up with a reason for you to continue to suspend your disbelief. And is it all that reason? Is it actually reasonable in the real world? Of course not. But I'm going to see a movie about snakes on a plane, and they give me a reason to continue to suspend my disbelief. That's all I'm asking for. And that movie went out of its way to accomplish that.
Okay, so hang on. So there's a story in the news about people flushing meth down the toilet and the gators eating the meth. And the gators,
Oh, God.
And this is not a joke. Google it. They just put out a warning. Stop flushing your meth down the toilet. You're feeding the meth to gators. Had that been an element of this movie, would it have made it better for you?
Yes.
Oh, I would have been all in.
We need
Gators.
I have at least 3 musician friends on Facebook who are all trying to get a band called Meth Gators started.
We need Crawl 2, Revenge of the Meth Gator.
Well, I mean this in all seriousness. There's a scene where, again, a bunch of meth is being flushed down or cocaine, and the gators get to it, and they just... I mean, you've seen the joke about the bear that ate like 5 kilos of coke.
Yeah.
I'm just picturing now the same gators, and they're still wearing their Baptist gowns. But they're right around a card table, all doing cocaine and meth. Oh my God, we need to make this movie.
Mark, you're old enough to remember this. Wasn't there a movie like in the early 80s about flushing gators down the toilet?
Yep.
And they become massive?
There was that movie.
Okay.
Horribly inaccurate.
Well, the CGI was great on it.
There was no CGI. There weren't really computers.
I know. That was the joke, Robert.
The force perspective, however, kind of sucked. So, all right,
this reminds me of a story, sidebar. I was watching Live PD, and there's a guy in Alabama that fled to Alabama with a squirrel called D's Nuts that was on a heavy diet of meth. He had trained it to attack people because he was a meth dealer. And the squirrel, he is in jail, and the squirrel is still at large.
Can we all agree that meth would make all movies better? Like think Jurassic Park, but the dinosaurs are all on meth. Jaws, but the Jaws are on the sharks on meth.
Mark, no.
The gators would lose their teeth on meth.
If only they smoked it for a while.
That actually would work for sharks because they just naturally grow more teeth. They don't care about the side effects.
All right,
this is what we're talking about.
Look, as much as I enjoy pitching terrible movie ideas, we got to move this on. So go ahead, Robert.
All right.
Before I pitch more ideas.
There's a few bits of decent CGI with the gators. There's a few, again, in the crawl space when they get to be confined and menacing. That's pretty good. Then there's a few that are in that same area that are pretty bad. Like anytime they interact with a human. And there's a few different scenes when the people are having to react to like the slapping of the tail, and it's so badly synced up. It looks like really bad pro wrestling moves. Like, oh, I was supposed to sell that. Crap.
Oh, so it looks like John Cena.
Hey, look at you.
I was going to go with CM Punk, but okay.
Hey, look at you making a wrestling reference, Alexa. Good for you.
You just called me Alexa again, didn't you?
I said Alexis.
Either that or you got, I don't know. I heard Alexa.
I think what I said was Alexis. Alexis.
All right. Tell me if you do a Vince. Stop it. You're about to go into your Vince McMahon. I can feel it. Stop it. Okay, now let's.
Is it Vince McMahon or Richard Nixon?
With you, it's always Vince McMahon.
All right.
Richard Nixon was a more moral human being than Vince McMahon.
Ow.
Look, I think Richard.
Oh my God!
Kind of a bad rap, generally. But
we started this talking about Trump, and now we're talking about Nixon.
Okay. No, I'm just trying to burn Vince McMahon for being a giant bag of feces.
So, what else about gators and weather?
It's not the gators. Let's talk about hurricanes for a second. This is very explicitly a Category 5 hurricane. Now, for those of you unaware, I will be brief about this. The category of hurricane is determined by the wind speed. The more speed, the more wind speed there is, the higher the category. Similar to how tornadoes tend to be categorized by the amount of things they can pick up. Like the heavier stuff is that they can move, the higher they go on the Fujita scale. So for a hurricane to actually be a hurricane, there's a minimum of you have to have a wind speed that is a minimum of 96 miles per hour. For a Category 2 in a sustained fashion, not just bursts. To get to a Category 5, you have to have a minimum wind speed of 157 miles per hour, sustained. Now, I only bring this up because there's at least two scenes. In fact, there was one scene in particular where they exit the building in the midst of the hurricane, and I swear not a hair on their head moves. In 150, that is strong enough wind to throw both of them halfway across the freaking state. But no, their hair doesn't move.
So was I seriously the only one who just walked out of this movie and said, "Oh, that was a fun little popcorn edge of your seat thriller. That was an enjoyable way to waste the afternoon. Moving on."
No, because I looked at my father like that was the dumbest thing I've ever seen. My mother was like, I enjoyed it. I'm like, it's the best movie I've ever seen. It was fantastic. Let's sit and watch it again.
Look, if I rewatched this movie, and I might, I will understand a bit more about the buy-in. But if I'm looking at these things critically, then I have to discuss them critically. So there's no understanding of the actual wind physics of a hurricane. Just none. And that's fine if you just want to say it's a hurricane, and you know what, fine. I'll buy that you can move around in a 96 mile per hour windstorm. You know what, okay, bend over, turn the fans on the actors, make it look like they're walking in, and fine, I'll go along. But for a Category 5 that literally tears up houses, I'm sorry, you don't get to walk through water up to your waist and say no splashing won't attract the alligator and we won't attract the gators.
Here's why I'm not screaming and throwing plastic fruit at you right now. For the movie to be what it wasn't necessary for that to be a Category 5. It could have been a Category 3. They could have still been walking around and you'd have had the same problem. The partition that separated the gators from the house was destroyed, and they had gotten in, and the house had been largely abandoned for a while, so they had time to nest there. That's the story. That's the setting they've walked into when this movie begins. The fact that there's a hurricane is just another hurdle for the actors to deal with, another obstacle. So making it a Category 5, I mean, I think about the Helen Hunt movie Twister, where they're dealing with the consequences of the actual weather and how that's impacting what's left of that plot. This isn't about the hurricane. This is about the gator. So why was it necessary to be Category 5 and as you're pointing out, be this scientifically inaccurate?
Look, if you want flooding to be part of the equation, have them rupture the pipes in the house. Like, there's so many other ways to do this.
Yeah, but you could have magically flooded that house even with a Category 3.
No. That's my point.
Banged on that one pipe. I'm surprised it didn't rupture.
I mean, I don't know what that brick's made of, but it must have been made of balsa wood.
I was going to say, how about bust the levees earlier on in the movie?
Yeah,
I mean...
Here's the thought. Have it be the aftermath of the hurricane. The levees have broken, but the storm itself is dissipated. She's there because she hasn't heard from her dad and is worried about him. Finds him with quasi-displaced gators under the house, and you still have the movie. You just don't have some of the stupidity.
So here's the question, guys. If we're all picking apart this movie and talking about how horrible it is and how scientifically inaccurate it is, how come it's one of the most highest-rated movies on Rotten Tomatoes right now?
Because critics suck at their job.
Well, can we table that? If you're asking in earnest, let's table that to the third part of the podcast, and I'll actually read some of the positive ones, and we can kind of figure out I think I know what the answer is. That a lot of them were just like there was great atmosphere and great tension, and that's all they cared about.
Here's the other thing about, and to jump ahead a little bit as far as that goes, I'm going to go out on a limb and say the majority of the major critics didn't even screen this. So a lot of the actual reviews you're getting are from, and I do not mean this as a negative, you're getting them from more content-specific or niche websites. And a website dedicated to reviewing horror movies will review this differently than someone looking at it from a pure film perspective. And I don't mean that as a negative. If your audience is horror fans and they don't care about elements of the film craft or they're used to the tropes of horror, so they don't view them as negatives, so there's other things you want to talk about, go for it. By all means, I am not knocking that at all.
All right, Robert, your last remarks on this movie, and let's move this along.
Again, if you know what you're getting into, it's perfectly serviceable by and large. I know too much, and unfortunately, I struggle to put that aside, especially when I know, I have to talk about this movie. So I watched, and again, like a lot of the just anatomy and the destruction of it there's not even a lot of fun, gross stuff here. I mean, there's the one scene where Barry Pepper's arm gets torn off, which is kind of cool, except that for the utter lack of blood flow. For the love of all that's holy, it's not that hard.
Yeah, but again, with a cast this small, I mean, we're talking like stage play cast here.
I've seen stage plays that can rig up some fake blood.
If they hurt her drastically too early in the movie, then there's the problem of now she's too damaged to get to the end of the movie, and we'd be complaining about that. You kind of have to figure out which one of the stupid things you're going to do in this movie to get this going are you going to run with. They ran with she's Namor the Submariner. I'm fine with that.
Also, she has special healing powers to do CPR the way she done. Because that is not how you do CPR.
I have it on good authority. Look, I don't know how you do things in West Virginia, but here in Florida, we punch people in the heart and they come back to life. Meth helps.
Look, I'll defer to the actual medical professional. Oh, last thing, and I swear this is the last thing, because there's a lot of stupidity I will tolerate from characters. Then we're trapped under a house with our backs against a brick wall that already has drainage holes, areas for drainage built into it. We have an established tool belt that includes a fair amount of quasi-heavy-duty machinery, and for some reason, this masonry is just so impervious to anything that no one even thinks about trying to break open a hole bigger.
I'm not going to lie, the entire time they were sitting there with the light coming through, and I'm like, why haven't they started hitting that with a hammer?
Yes! Again,
also,
I'll tolerate a lot of stupidity.
Fucking what's-his-face from the Shawshank Redemption tunneled out with a spoon. These people don't even think about hitting it with a hammer.
when old boy from the cop was getting attacked, why didn't she just run up the stairs?
Yeah, again.
She was right there. She was right there reaching out to him. She could have just went up the stairs.
And there's Alexandra Aja has a big habit of having his characters do really, really stupid things. Case in point from The Hills Have Eyes. One of our protagonists sets a trap for and clubs one of the inbred hillbillies over the back of the head with a baseball bat. The hillbilly in question is carrying around a fully loaded, demonstrated functional shotgun. Our hero, after clubbing this poor deformed jackass in the head, does not pick up the shotgun. No. Does not even continue holding the bat. Drops it and begins running.
All right. I think we've as Alexis pointed out, I think we've well worn out this movie. Let's talk about some money, shall we?
Very little.
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money. Money, money, money.
Dollar, dollar. Dollar, dollar.
All right. On a budget of $150. Let's see here. $13.5 million. This has made $16.8 million so far. It did not win the weekend. That went to Spider-Man, Far From Home, which is in its second week in the number 2 spot. Crawl debuted at number 3. Toy Story remained in the second spot for its second week. Stuber, which is the new Dave Bautista movie where him and a Indian comedian drive around in a cab and hilarity ensues.
In theory.
Yes, yesterday fell from 3 to 5. Aladdin 5 to 6. Annabelle Comes Home 4 to 7. Midsommar 6 to 8. The Secret Life of Pets 2. Now You've Done It. Pickles is Pissed 7 to 9. Men in Black International 8 to 10. And Avengers.
I hate that you put that on there for Secret Life of Pets 2.
And Avengers Endgame. Come on, people. We're 7 million away. God damn.
Not gonna happen.
No,
Lion King comes out and it's losing all of its theaters. Not gonna happen.
Oh, we're so close. We can do 7 million. If we all go this weekend to go see it after Lion King, we can make this happen, people. Come on, people.
Money in the mouse's pocket.
Speaking of the mouse's pocket, Jesus Christ. So, real quick, before I was saving this for the money, but it has nothing to do with this movie. It's just something that I happen to have looked at today. So next year, 2020, the final chapter in the MonsterVerse, Kong versus Godzilla. I mean, maybe they intended to go past this, but this is kind of the Avengers of this franchise. Comes out next year. Do you know what Universal has literally resurrected from the dead and decided to put up against Kong versus Godzilla? The Invisible Man.
I'll let you do it.
The Invisible Man. Like the Dark World Empire Schmagegi. Do you know what I'm talking about here? The
dark. What weren't they calling it? Like the Dark Universe?
Yeah,
or
the
something
Dark
stupid
Universe.
Like that.
Yeah, and then they released the Tom Cruise Mummy movie, and then everyone just kind of walked away from that, pretending it didn't exist.
Yeah, so I thought the Dark Universe was dead, and they decided, maybe not everyone's from Gotham, and not everything needs to be a cinematic universe. But lo and behold, the people at Universal are doing the meth that didn't fall into the gator's mouth, because now they think that this Invisible Man movie that nobody wants, and anyone going to the movies doesn't even know there was an Invisible Man, thinks is going to go up against...
I go to the movies and I know about the Invisible Man.
You don't count for anything. Kong versus Godzilla.
He's not wrong.
Oh, stop. I put Dr. Sleep on the schedule for him. He knows I love him.
No, I think that's just a horrible manipulation tactic. You said I'm accommodating you, be accommodated. I think I said to you, I've just been hit so often that your act of generosity confuses and angers me.
Stop talking about our abusive relationship on air, Robert.
Yes, sir.
Now get in the kitchen and make me a sandwich. Now listen.
No.
laughed at that as hard as I did.
My goal is
Subtitles for all of our podcasts.
My
You should
goal
not
is
be
to-
laughing as hard as you are.
my goal is to get you to belly laugh at least once during these things. So yeah, I don't
Your life
understand.
is unfulfilled.
Yeah, I don't understand what possessed Universal to think that the same weekend as Kong versus Godzilla, even though Kong versus Godzilla right now is at 384 million. I mean, it's fine. It underperformed. It didn't do what they wanted it to do, but it wasn't unsuccessful by and large. And The Mummy was hot trash that failed. Who thought this was a good idea?
Who's starring in it? It doesn't matter because you'll never see him.
It's John Cena.
Womp, womp, womp.
No, John Cena line.
I believe
John
John.
Cena.
I want to say Johnny Depp is in it. I don't have the time or the patience to look for it now. But I think Alexis, if you want to look it up for me, I think Johnny Depp's in The Invisible Man. Anyway, I just
Hang on, I'll let me.
there are
let me wait.
52 weeks in a year. You're telling me there wasn't one weekend that you thought was a better idea to introduce your stupid Dark Universe movie that no one's going to go see? That you think, you know what? Fuck it. Let's go head to head with Warner Brothers. Are you mad? Mad? I don't.
Well, it is interesting if they're trying to restart the Dark Universe because I remember reading this after Tom Cruise's Mummy just was destroyed. The next movie that they wanted to launch was going to be it was like Frankenstein's Bride.
Yeah, Bride of Frankenstein.
Yeah, so Invisible Man wasn't.
Were they actually
even on the
bringing back
roster.
Aaron Eckhart as Godzilla
It's not Depp.
Wow.
as Frankenstein's monster?
Guys, it's not Depp. It's Oliver Jackson Cohen.
I do not know who that is.
I'm looking. You guys, did you guys watch the
He
haunting?
is
Okay,
perfect Invisible Man.
did you guys watch the Haunting of Hill House on Netflix?
No, not yet. I have a brother who keeps insisting I need to watch it, but I keep getting sidetracked by the terrible stuff Mark makes me watch.
He is a part of the main cast of that. He's been in a couple of other things, but it looks like the Haunting of Hill House is what's kind of kick-started his career. He plays Luke. So.
I will keep that in mind if and when I watch the movie.
Okay. Well, we're not doing The Invisible Man. I refuse to add it to the schedule. I'm not. Look, there's a lot of things I'm willing to support because of my love of all things mainstream and franchise and terrible. I even the Dark Universe is beyond the pale for me. I cannot support this.
The plot actually looks interesting. This is what this is wiki, so it's subject to scrutiny, but this is what the premise for The Invisible Man says. After her abusive ex-boyfriend commits suicide, naive widow Cecilia begins to rebuild her life for the better. However, her sense of reality is put into question when she begins to suspect her former boyfriend is not actually dead as she had thought.
Wow. So we're actually doing if Kevin Bacon had survived in Hollow Man?
Don't bring up that movie.
Come on! Josh Brolin, Kevin Bacon.
Here's the thing. If they want to remake The Invisible Man, I don't know why you would. Again, we're not a literate culture. Nobody remembers it. Look, I barely remember The Invisible Man, and the one that I keep thinking of is the bit from Amazon Women on the Moon, where he's not really invisible and he's just running around naked, which I think is hilarious.
See, I keep thinking about the bit from Abbott and Costello.
There you go. Even better.
Look, if you... What they should do is just re-release Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein.
There you go.
Because
that's how...
I love that movie.
It does look like this film, according to this, the studio wanted to, the main focus now on the studio is that they realized one of the biggest problems of the 2016 Mummy, besides it existing at all, was that it was focusing too hard on the connection from film to film, which I think if you saw the movie, you will agree with.
Oh yeah.
No, even
Yeah.
I couldn't bear to see that one and took it off the schedule.
I unfortunately watched it. There was one scene I liked, and that was it. But no,
It wasn't Tom Cruise epically running in front of a green screen?
No, actually, it was the bit when they find out that the palm identifier changes between Jekyll and Hyde. I actually thought that was kind of clever. But it looks like the studio is saying that this may relaunch the Dark Universe, but they're trying to focus more on individual content and individual storytelling and less building of the cinematic universe.
That's adorable. Universe dressed up as Warner Brothers DC for Halloween. Fantastic.
Pretty freaking accurate.
Anyway, fuck the Dark Universe. That's what I say. So where we stand worldwide, Avengers Endgame, #1. Look, if you count Spider-Man Far From Home as really a Marvel/Disney movie instead of a Sony movie, considering who actually produced and shot the damn thing, Disney owns the top 5 spots right now. Endgame, Captain Marvel, Aladdin, Spider-Man Far From Home with $850 million. That Aladdin, by the way, almost $1 billion right now. Toy Story, $776 million, which knocked the Chinese Chinaman movie, The Wandering Earth, down to number 6. And then we round out the top 10 with How to Train Your Dragon, Detective Pikachu, Alita Battle Angel, and Godzilla King of the Monsters. Yeesh. I mean, and then Star Wars still has to come out.
Well, I mean, we've got Lion King in a week or something.
Right. So right now, like, again, if it's listed as Sony, but if you count it as a Marvel movie, if you count it as a Disney movie, it's Disney owns the top 5. It's going to have 2 more spots at a minimum by the end of the year. The ramifications of that? 8 out of 10 spots in the top 10, all between $500 and almost $3 billion. It's just, I mean, what an accomplishment. How is Disney stock not going through the goddamn roof right now?
It is.
I was going to say, what, it isn't?
Have you looked at its share lately?
I pay half. I turn half an ear to what's going on in the world of stocks, and I hadn't necessarily seen people screaming for the love of God by Disney. So I guess I
that's
didn't look
because it can only go up so high.
It's just incredible. Like, if you're Warner Brothers and Universal, what penis envy they must have. And if you're Paramount and Sony, you're like you're just dead man walking.
Hey guys, I hate to keep going back to the Invisible Man, but there is something here about it that I think is actually going to bring in a little hope. It's written and directed by Leigh Whannell, if I'm pronouncing his last name right.
Oh, Leigh Whannell.
Leigh Whannell, thank you. Yes.
That actually does give me a fair bit of hope.
Again, it's going... But here's the thing, and this is... I don't think people are going to go see it, number 1. Number 2, I think it'll have like a niche audience, but unless they keep the budget low, I don't think it's successful. Number 2, it's going up against Kong versus Godzilla. That's a tough mountain to climb, even despite the fact that Godzilla, King of the Monsters, underperformed. Kong versus Godzilla is kind of the WrestleMania of, mark the center square, everybody, of your monster movies. The only thing that could make this worse for Universal is if fucking Disney releases a movie that weekend, which they're not going to. But it's just, I don't. The whole point of me bringing this up was I just don't understand Universal's thinking in this. Like, why would you contest that weekend? There's plenty of weekends on the calendar where people just gave up, and it's like one movie coming out.
There's at least 2 months that people have just given up on.
Like the Lion King comes out this weekend. That's it. It's just the Lion King. Because nothing else is going to be competitive. Like, why would you do this? It's just weird. Like this is Aquaman and Bumblebee and Mary Poppins all over again. It's like, why? How did you look at the calendar and go, oh no, it's the only date we want. I don't care how many other competitive movies are out there. It's sometimes I just want to be in the boardroom, like when they're planning out the movie calendar. Like, what are you thinking here? Tell me your thoughts. Share with me your dreams.
I'll go ahead. I will give you that, but. Seriously, Invisible Man, written and directed by Leigh Whannell. I actually am intrigued now. I legit am. I like this. I like his movies.
Dude's solid.
Well, yeah. I anxiously await your report.
Look, Whannell and James Wan built a lot of goodwill with me over the course of like 2 movies. So, and they still haven't chewed through it.
So, as I said, this weekend is The Lion King and nothing else. So,
apparently The Lion King sucks.
I think the critics are just about done with Disney remakes, but people going to see them aren't, so it doesn't matter. And then
I have my thoughts on why it probably sucks, but I'll have that confirmed when I have to suffer through this next week. The things I do for you people.
Again, you do not know my pain. Just
that's going to be followed up by Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the Quentin Tarantino movie, which
we're all excited to see, I think.
Yes, which is then followed.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited to see it.
Which is then followed by Hobbs and Shaw, which my children are excited to see. So these next couple of weeks are pretty much like single uncontested movies. I mean, this little stuff that's coming out.
Hobbs and Shaw apparently tracking very badly.
We'll see. We'll see what happens. All right. I think that does it for the money. So let's move on here. And after our extended discussion of why in God's green earth would you release the Invisible Man against Kong vs. Godzilla, here we go with the final part of our podcast.
But I just gotta know one thing. Are you ready? No! I said, are you ready?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
All right.
Hang on. So do you think for a while in NXT, Triple H actually would, when people would get called up, he'd open with, are you ready? And then everyone just realized it's a terrible, terrible fate.
Have you heard some of the NXT review that we all did with Jesse, where it was like, I hope Vince McMahon dies before they call up Matt Riddle and Velveteen Dream?
Yeah, I heard that. Have you seen the latest Laughing Vince bit?
No.
Where they call up the street, like Vince and Triple H. Paul, we need the Street Profits. I know but Vince, they're our champions. I know, pal, but we need them. Trust me, big plans for these guys. Yeah, I saw some of that stuff. Saw that ladder match. The one who did the thing. Great stuff. All right, if you really need them. Triple H shows up at Raw on Monday. The Street Profits are backstage doing nothing but anime-style narration over storylines. Vince, what the hell, man? Vince laughing.
It's Crime Time 2.0.
They're more talented than Crime Time was. Hey,
by so much.
Let's talk about movies. So I'm going to read for Alexis's benefit. Alexis. Haven't done that in a while, right? I'm going to go ahead.
I thought you finally got used to turning off your Amazon Echo before we recorded.
I'm going to go ahead and read the fresh reviews so that we know exactly collectively what these people liked about this movie, and we can answer that question. We can unlock that riddle. Keith Phipps of Slate, top critic. Craw would look pretty good in just about any season. In this one, it positively glows.
Okay, don't get me wrong. I actually do understand kind of the point there that he's making. That, this summer, let's face it, the summer movie season this year kind of sucked. And so having something that is very, very different from the standard fare, it does benefit by comparison. And just, it is getting a few points just for being different. And fair play if you want to give it those points.
Angelica Jade Bastine of New York Magazine / Vulture, top critic. Crawl is a great example of a simple story exceedingly well told. It's a bloody adventure full of teeth-gnawing turns of fortune.
It's not bloody. No blood.
Yeah.
Let's try it again. It's a bloody adventure full of teeth-gnawing turns of fortune, mordant wit, vicious gator kills, and surprising tenderness. Because the meat's tender.
Yeah, A, what's tender? B, there's not even there's not even any good kills out of this movie.
I thought the guy who got his head ripped off by the swarm of gators was pretty fucking brutal.
That was alright. I mean, I kind of liked the cop getting,
dismembered?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the one I'm talking about.
See, I like that one, and I like the woman...
cellar door.
No, I like the one cop who got dismembered by the gag alligators, and I enjoyed the alligator robbing the woman for the ATM. I thought that was funny.
I mostly just love that shot because
look, it was a security gator.
Sorry,
Yes.
I honestly like that just because I love that it's in the background and you're noticing this other guy going, hey, I think they're survivors, and he doesn't even notice his girlfriend about to get chopped. I'm sorry, I thought that was legit funny.
Okay, can I also mention, in that same vein, they establish that boat is not safe. The gator actually comes up into it. So I don't know why they all stopped chasing what was her name? Haley?
Yeah.
I don't know why they all stopped chasing Haley when she gets in the boat. Like, crap, she got it. She's safe.
Well,
the umpire has declared it.
I don't think they would get in the boat if the boat was moving. I think they just got into the boat because the boat was standing still. I honestly don't think they'd be able to get in there if the boat was moving.
And I'm just curious how that swing held a gator.
That was some heavy duty.
We're backsliding. Adam Naiman of The Ringer. What's likable about Aj's new thriller, Crawl, is how the director pares down his indulgences into a fine, sharp point. Because gators.
No,
okay,
actually,
are all of these reviews going to have frickin' puns?
I think that's what Mark's going for.
Secondly, this movie actually could have used a few more of his aesthetic indulgences. I actually do think it would have benefited the overall film to have some of the stuff he's more known for, and instead it eschews that, partially for budgetary reasons, I assume.
And now,
So you think this would have been a better movie if it had been more like Piranha 3D?
A little bit. I mean, again, there's a few bits of, I hate to say pure excess because I'm not sure that's the appropriate word, but there's a few bits of flair that could have been added here. And again, I would have personally loved a little bit of actual blood flow from, gaping wounds. Call me crazy.
We probably would have needed a few more red shirts then to make that work.
Okay. Again, that's one of the reasons I think if you set I kind of am coming more around to the idea of, again, like a post-hurricane cleanup, because you've got all the cleanup crews that they can chew through one at a time.
All right, and now the living embodiment of a Prius driver fart, Eric D. Snyder of ericdsnyder.com.
You self-employed bastard.
Like an alligator, the movie is efficient, mean, and behaves the way you'd expect.
Considering how wildly inaccurate this is to alligator behavior and behaviorals, no.
That is such a cop-out sentence. It's like that doesn't install anything in the reader. It's like, what are we supposed to take away from that other than the fact that you think you're clever?
I was waiting for it to include, it's an apex predator. I mean,
I assume that's coming.
Somebody has to have their review.
Let's see if Nick Johnston does it, of Vanyaland. Vanyaland. Crawl is a wham bam, thank you ma'am, blitzkrieg of goofy of goofy fun.
You don't get to make references to like the 80s when you review. No.
Nope, here we go again. Take two. Crawl is a wham bam, thank you ma'am.
Stop
Blitzkrieg.
it.
Every time I do it, I shake my ass. I want you to know that. Blitzkrieg.
I believe you, but I wish you wouldn't.
Take three. I'm going to keep running this play till we get it right. Crawl is a wham bam, thank you ma'am, blitzkrieg of goofy fun, only intending to outright entertain you for the duration of its 88-minute runtime.
It's not a goofy film. Again, I think a couple of us are saying it would have been better if it was goofy.
Could have used a bit more goof.
Frank Achlen of Flick Feast. Creepily engaging and fixating. The bouncy bloodshed in Crawl should inspire those to run rather than walk to a helping of old-fashioned horror-induced hedonism at its celebrated naughtiness.
I'm pretty sure this guy was paid to write. And I don't mean paid to do the review. I mean somebody from the studio signed a check for this gentleman.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's just reading copy.
There's no. I struggle to believe that even if he enjoyed it, that was his takeaway.
Joe Fryer, the Victoria Advocate. The fuck is what?
you found a publication so obscure.
Barry Pepper and Kaya Scolodario as a father-daughter duo battling alligators in Florida during a Category 5 hurricane is scary good fun. The sleeper hit of the summer. It's barely made its budget, and its budget with $150.
Yeah.
It's a sleeper, but I don't know if we're going to call it a sleeper hit. Again,
I definitely took a nap.
And the line of the podcast goes to Jason. Well done.
Jason's on today, guys. We got a John Cena "You Can't See Me" reference and a burn on him.
That guy's a walk-on cleanup hitter. All right. Oh, good grief.
Something badly needed by the Reds.
Susan Granger of SSG Syndicate. This bitch.
Oh.
Ugh. Scary and squirming, becoming a truly terrifying thrill ride.
I question your sentence structure here and your word choice.
She's on to something, but yeah, that I'll give you that. That is pretty poorly.
Yeah,
written.
meth.
No, Susan Granger doesn't do meth. She's too high class. She's definitely an ether gal. Jeremy Johns of JeremyJohns.com. Give it to me. Give it to me.
I'm not even going to give this guy that. I don't even think he's employed by himself.
This is bafflingly good. It's way better than it ever had any right to be.
Okay, that's probably that last bit is probably true, but I would again like anyone who says if you do appreciated all these kinds of movies again, I've got a checkered relationship with the director. But I know a lot of people who really, really like his work. And again, he's done a couple of things that I do really enjoy. So, again, being baffled by the success, by the successful pairing of Sam Raimi and Alexander Aja is not something you should be if you have any bit of research into personalities at all. But again, since you're too busy actually asking yourself for a raise. You are Hermes from that scene in Futurama where he tries to give himself a raise, but he wasn't having any of his nonsense.
Emma Stefanowski of Thrillist. Crawl demands your respect for its antagonist. As soon as the water reaches your knees, humans are no longer apex predators. Survival!
There it is.
Merely boils down to how well you can sneak by.
Mark, you are clearly having way too much fun reading this shit.
I think this is the highlight of his week. And some weeks that he just, you know what? I'm living for that Tuesday when I get to make Robert's skin crawl by exposing the terribleness of humanity.
I have to go to Moffitt the next 2 days. One tomorrow to have surgery to get my line out, and the next day to have a biopsy of my ass. My ass, people. My ass has to be biopsied again. Yes, this is the highlight of my week.
I'm just going to say this. When you said you live for this Tuesday, you slowed down for a second. I thought you were about to say you live for this tumor. I'm like, what, wait?
Look, no, I would never root for Mark to actually die.
But no, I would like to...
I have occasionally rooted for his cancer to stage a comeback.
I occasionally think that if Robert ever actually has a tumor, it's going to be like the one from Family Guy, and it's going to be me going, I'm a tumor, I'm a tumor, I'm a tumor, I'm a tumor, I'm a tumor.
Look, apparently you're supposed to name your tumors. It's part of a visualization process. I am probably going to name mine Mark.
I hope so. I'd be honored.
It's going to be Mark. It's going to be Mark or Chad because everyone hates Chad.
Chris Stuck, you ain't kidding. Chris Stuckman at ChrisStuckman.com.
The one thing the whole world agrees on, everyone hates a Chad.
Okay, Chris Stuckman of ChrisStuckman.com.
Oh, God, why are you alive, Chris
I
Stuckman?
like Stuckman. I follow him on YouTube.
We'll work on that. I had a blast watching it.
Just wait.
This is the type of horror film that I need a couple of times a year. Ugh.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, there's nothing
Why,
wrong
does
with
he
that.
suffer from insomnia?
Fair enough. Again, like I like to see a couple of actually, potentially interesting horror movies come out a few times a year, just so that I don't have to worry about the fate of the genre. Because I have in the past been worried about the state of horror.
I will say this: if it wasn't for my background, I would have enjoyed this movie a lot more. But just like any show that I watch that has a medical tone to it, I will pick it apart. That's why my wife cannot watch TV shows with me, because I will point out this is not how it works.
If she just really wants to binge Grey's Anatomy, and you just
maybe that's why I enjoy this movie more. If I had any semblance of medical training, then I wouldn't be a self-employed artist. And to be perfectly honest,
I'm a Boy Scout with a first aid merit badge, and I know how bad this is from a medical perspective.
I was just going to add, and I didn't bring this up earlier, I actually have a crippling fear of alligators and crocodiles. They legit terrify me.
I'm sure that works towards your enjoyment of the scare factor of the movie. So
yeah.
I think you're getting very, just different perspectives with this review, which makes it kind of fun. Jeffrey M. Anderson of Common Sense Media. Insidiously simple.
What a horrible oxymoron. Common Sense Media.
Insidiously simple, compact, and clever. This killer alligator movie, complete with slowly rising floodwaters, is relentless and absolutely terrifying. It's a career best for director Alexander Aja.
Okay.
No, it's not.
No.
I think that most of us are in agreement here that Piranha 3D was much better.
I have to be the only one here who's actually seen High Tension, right?
Yes.
Yes, I have not seen it.
I've seen High Anxiety.
Stop it. Okay, oh god.
I've seen How High.
Seen a housefly too, eh?
But I ain't never seen an elephant fly, motherfucker. Molly Henry of the Block.
Okay, seriously, if you're a horror fan, in all seriousness, if you're a horror fan, I can't, again, it's got some, again, it's bloody, and there's some weird twists to it. But if that's your bag, and happens to kind of be mine, it's pretty darn great. And again, I know someone who will largely defend to the death the quality of Horns. So I really struggle to find there a compelling argument for this being his career best work. Don't get me wrong. Better than a bunch of it. Again, Mirrors is just so bad. Like, it should be studied.
All right, a few more, and then we're going to call it a night. Molly Henry of the Blogging Banshee.
Oh, God. Wait, does that mean even reading her words will, force me to make a death saving throw? My D&D references aside.
Mark the right corner square, everybody. Crawl is the perfect summer...
No, my D&D thing has never been added to the bingo chart. Don't even bring that up.
Take two. Crawl is the perfect summer creature feature, bringing action, scares, gore, and tons of thrills.
Where was the gore?
Yeah, you're reading copy. There's no gore. There's not even a whole lot of... I'm going to go out on a limb. While the movie is intermittently creepy and tension building, I don't know. I didn't get scared, apart from some crappy jump scares.
Let me cut this off and ask a very serious question here, and then we'll read one or two more of these, and then we'll call it a night. Because the question was asked, if we're sitting here, and I don't think I was largely unfair to the movie. For the most part, I said, here are the things that worked. There was a couple of plot elements that weren't followed up on appropriately for my liking, and the CGI was a bit of a mess at times. I don't think that's unfair. That being said, so the question was asked, why was this critically reviewed higher than really it should have been? And let me go right to the point of this question. This thing was put out by Paramount Pictures. Of all the movies that Paramount worked on this year, and I can bring up the list if we need to again, why would they go out of their way to pay for reviews for this movie in particular? A $13 million budget B-flick horror movie.
if I had to guess, and given some of the tenor of the reviews, there's a couple of things that they're really kind of hoping for the traditional horror high return on low investment. Because when horror hits, it's almost always with a smaller budget, and
you're talking about like a Blair Witch effect. We made this movie for $150, but it made $1 billion.
Look, you want a list of all the movies that are made very cheaply in the horror genre that then have significant returns on investment? Because it's long. It starts with the house that Freddy built in New Line.
Right.
First 2 Paranormal Activities, the Saw movies, long list. I mean, the number of production studios that owe their continued existence to the just consistent payout for a decent horror movie is, I mean, Lionsgate. Again, Lionsgate's not around without Saw, just pretty much straight up. So I think they're kind of hoping for that. There's also a bit of, and we've talked about this because I get pissed when reviewers bring it up as a negative to the film. There's a lot of fatigue around certain things in movies right now. Be that superheroes, be that franchises more generally, be that just really, 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 really stupid movies. And this movie gets a lot of stuff wrong, but at least it's somewhat consistent to itself.
It was fairly competently made.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of reviewers just kind of so glad I don't have to review another Marvel movie that, yes, this looks so good just by being different.
So I'm wondering how much of this was fallout from the last night. Because Paramount took a bath on that, and it kind of recovered with the last Mission Impossible. But for the most part, Paramount doesn't have a whole lot left in the chamber. And so I'm wondering if the strategy was, hey, let's focus on talking up a bunch of small-budget movies, and maybe one of these will end up being enormously successful.
I mean, it's not a bad strategy to go for, in all honesty.
Oh, my God. Did you know there's a new Saw movie coming out?
Yeah, with Chris Rock. Or Chris Rock's producing
it. Samuel L. Jackson.
All right, Alexis, you want to weigh in here?
My rage is...
I don't want to talk about the stupid Saw thing until it becomes a thing. Alexis, you want to comment on this, or are you like, all right, guys, let's move it along?
I've been kind of fading in and out, honestly.
All right, moving on.
You're not going to sing the Jigglypuff song for yourself?
Sorry, I was going through something and somebody called me an un-American bitch because of something I commented on Facebook, so I kind of went into a stupor of what the fuck for a few moments.
Oh, no.
It's not worth the effort. It's really not.
Speaking of not worth the effort, Matt Donato of We Got This Covered.
Oh, God, I hate this guy.
Crawl is sensationally thrilling, aquatic nightmare filled with carnage, bubbling chaos, and all the creature feature intensity that makes this summer must-see horror event.
Okay. I think I know what's going on here in some degree, and this might be a larger discussion. We're dealing with an entire generation of, like, film reviewers who have never seen the classics. Boy, this sure is a scary movie. Have you never seen Hellraiser, sir? I'd like to introduce you... let's leave the rape and revenge genre out of this, but for a minute or two. How about The Exorcist? Have you not seen The Exorcist?
All right, let's end this with good old Scott Mendelson from Forbes. We haven't heard from him in a while.
I was hoping he died.
I don't know why.
I'm disturbed that my reaction was death rather than just retired, now that I think about it.
I don't know why Paramount hid this one from most movie critics, but it's a rock-solid genre flick that delivers on its promises.
You're not very familiar with the genre, are you, sir? You're just saying genre flick because you don't have another word for it. Again, and I might have torn this thing apart in some respects, but if you know what you're getting into, there's only so much that I think from a craft perspective is really worthy of hammering. Parts of the CGI, elements of the pacing and narrative, we talked about all that. So he's not wrong to say it's a pretty solid genre flick in and of itself. That's largely accurate, but
Hey,
why did
your dad liked it, by the way. Roger Moore of Movie Nation.
Oh, boy.
Formulaic but harrowing.
I'm not sure a formulaic movie where you know everyone's going to survive can be harrowing, just by definition.
And now
It's not the dumbest review you've read so far tonight.
Not even the dumbest review that guy's ever posted.
And now the last word from a site that admits it gets paid to review things because they're a bunch of shills. Invite them. Invite them to your event, or they'll go crazy on a podcast. Perry Nemiroff of Collider Video.
Oh, God.
This fucking site.
Why do we even dignify their existence?
Because they still exist.
I'm sorry, Mark, you really got to find some new critics because it's getting a little old that you say name and immediately Robert goes, "Oh God!" It's becoming that's becoming formulaic.
That's fair. A batshit wild summer thrill. Forget edge of your seat. I had to stop myself from jumping out of it a few times. Crawl is a must-see on the big screen with a packed house. This couldn't be more of a horseshit review if she had made all the S's dollar signs, you fucking hack.
Tell us how you really feel, Mark.
Oh, everybody on Collider should just go walk into the woods to live deliberately. Jesus Christ.
They wouldn't get the reference if you told them that.
That's a Henry David Thoreau reference, kids.
They wouldn't know how to spell his name.
I'm done. I'm out.
I love that the last one didn't even get me that badly. You did it to yourself.
I'm pretty sure that had he not said anything, you would have picked up the pace. But when he went off the deep end, you just kind of sat back and said, "Never mind."
Again, I had things I could have said about that. I really did, but...
But were you actually going to top what he said?
No, that's why I let him do it.
Yeah.
Collider. May your whole website up and die. All right. Tomorrow night on the Metal Hammer of Doom, we've got the Texas Hippie Coalition. Aside from Crawl, we've been doing Doom Patrol stuff this week. We did the 2016 iteration where Chris Sheehan told you all the things about Doom Patrol. Very well.
And Mark has now come to realize that Mark got to learn what a furry was on that episode, I seem to recall.
So Doom Patrol was a lot of fun, a very well-received comic book podcast from all accounts. I hope you tune in to hear it. It was one of our better ones. It was definitely one where it's not me and Jesse going, I don't know what the fuck to say. How about a dick joke? All right. Speaking of dick jokes, this Thursday we've got a TV party for Doom Patrol. We're going to take Friday off, and then Saturday night's all right for fights. We've got the undercard, Plant versus Lee, from the Pacquiao-Thurman fight on Fox. You're watching Fox. Pat and I are going to provide alternative coverage for that. Are you going to... there's no UFC on that night. Are you going to...
There is.
Oh, there is? I don't
this
see
Saturday?
anything. Yeah, I don't see anything.
UFC on ESPN4. Rafael dos Anjos versus Leon Edwards.
Oh, it's going up against the Pacquiao fight, so lots of luck, pal. So, yes, we'll do some coverage of Plant versus Lee, the undercard, which is on Fox, and then you can... I don't think we're shifting over to the Pacquiao-Thurman fight. That's on pay-per-view on the Fight app, because Pat doesn't want to spend the money. So, such is life. Next week, we've got a pair of Cloak and Dagger shows for you. Jesse and I will be doing a show. The 2018 iteration of Cloak and Dagger, 6-issue limited series, Shades of Grey. That was a fun read. I hope you enjoy that show. And then on Thursday, we'll be reviewing Cloak and Dagger Season 2. What a weird show that was. Right over here on the Damn You Hollywood, we'll be looking at the Lion King remake that all the critics have just about said, fuck this movie on. And Robert Winfree.
I have not found a legitimately positive review of that movie.
I've only heard 2 positive things so far, and I would actually like to keep this in mind for next week. The only 2 positive things I've heard so far: CGI is mind-blowingly amazing, and Timon and Pumbaa steal the show.
All right.
I don't know. I'm torn on the CGI thing because I've seen some of the stuff that they've been putting out, and I have no doubt there's parts of it that are brilliant. But some of the stuff they've released,
we'll know this weekend, folks. Robert Winfree will be joining us on the Metal Hammer of Doom to talk Sabaton, the Great War, because what goes better with war than heavy metal? And then finally,
very few things.
We are going to be doing a source material for DC Hanna-Barbera 3. I'll be talking Huckleberry Hound, Green Lantern. Alexis will be talking Deathstroke, Yogi Bear. Ronnie Adams, we're going to find him in a bunker deep in the underground. We're going to bring him out to talk Nightwing, Magilla Gorilla, or not. We haven't.
I'm hoping not, because Magilla Gorilla is the worst.
And Jesse got stuck with Superman Top Cat. Will we have a judge? Will we just talk?
God. Who thought that was a good pairing?
We should bring you on. You can be the judge for that one.
No.
I was like, have we found a judge yet?
Well, it could be my dad, could be somebody else. We might not do it. I have to talk to Jesse. We have to have a meeting on it. We'll be talking Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, if she could, on Damn You Hollywood, L7, Scatter the Rats, on the Metal Hammer of Doom, because Riot Girl. And we called an audible. We're not doing Pulp Fiction because it's unprosecutable. Instead, we're going to pick the divisive follow-up, one of my personal favorites that I'm going to prosecute. I'm going to kill one of my babies. Ladies and gentlemen, Jackie Brown. So, hope you'll enjoy that one.
No, you can prosecute Pulp Fiction.
It's tough. I'd rather do Jackie Brown. You convinced me not to. Last week, it was all Spider-Man all the time. We did Ultimate Spider-Man 4 on Legacy by Brian Michael Bendis. On Source Material, we did a review of Damn You Hollywood. We did a review of Spider-Man Far From Home on Damn You Hollywood. We reviewed the new Amon Amarth, Berserker, otherwise known as Butt Swab Wednesday. And finally, Sean and I did an on-trial for Spider-Man 3. And then Pat and I got together and did a commentary for Iron Eagle. That was a lot of fun. So
it's a fun movie.
Indeed. So hope you all enjoyed.
Horribly stupid, but a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. So hope you all enjoyed that. Alexis, sell your shit.
Honeysuckle Rose Creations, the intersection of geek and chic. We just wrapped up a very successful weekend at Tokyo and Tulsa. Definitely heading back there next year, although I'm really hoping that things get better for location-wise. There was apparently a lot of drama behind the scenes with that. Our next event is a Kansas City local. This is going to be interesting. It is the Kansas City Nerdlesque Festival. This is Nerdy Burlesque. This is our first time working an event like this, so I have no clue what to expect or what's going to happen. But I am working on some fun new products that we're going to debut there. I'm hoping they go over well.
I need a full report. I might be doing some Comic-Con coverage this weekend, depending on what Marvel announces. I might have to call you and be like, come on, let's talk Marvel Comic-Con, and then tell me about Nerdy Burlesque. Tell me all about it.
Well, Nerd Burlesque
there are things you can't unsee.
Nerd Burlesque isn't until the end of the month. But for the record, if you want to... Okay, seriously, since Comic-Con is this weekend, do we want to stay up with trailer reactions and news reactions and stuff like we have in the past?
Definitely, maybe. Let's talk offline because I'm still living between two houses.
Fair enough. Okay, but yes, Honeysuckle Rose Creations. We got our stores on Etsy and Amazon. I have had very few sales on Amazon this month. Please, people, handmade on Amazon. Go look at my stuff. I need money. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Jason Teasley, sell your body.
I ain't doing shit right now.
What happened? I thought you were the man over on WTM. What happened to that?
Oh, that's still a month away.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure.
You only do football with them? I thought you did football and movies and all kinds of shit.
Hell no, they don't. They only trust me to do a little bit. They can only keep me on track for one podcast, which I'll go out on a limb. Actually, me and Eric Watkins are in the process of doing a new podcast over there. We're just kind of flying it under the radar, not letting Sean know about it. It's going to be highly controversial. There will be lots of alcohol consumption during this podcast, and it's not going to be your typical informative podcast. It's going to go off the rails quickly.
All right, well,
and it's going to be.
When WTM tells you that that's too much for them, you bring it to me, because this is the right and proper home for off the rails alcoholism.
Well, me and Eric we've discussed that there will be a 6-pack of alcoholic beverages drank prior to even hitting record, and we're going to tackle any and everything, whether it be controversial or just whatever we feel like saying.
You're hurting my feelings by not having this on my network now. How am I not getting an hour of you drunkenly yelling at the internet?
I don't know. I guess I fell out of your good graces once I discontinued the cheap seats, and
stop it.
Jesse went on to bigger and better things and left me in the dust. So now I just do guest spots for you.
Dude, I took away what was legitimately the most trafficked podcast we did, and he still lets me do this. And
Yeah.
I stopped doing one of the other top 5s.
Literally, I got an email. Hang on. Literally, I got an email going, "Hey, we'd like this podcast back." I was like, "Fucking take it. I don't give a shit." Robert was like, "What the hell, man?"
All I'm going to say is, I don't know if it still holds true, but me and Melissa still hold the record for the most downloaded podcast with Mark.
Okay. Well, I'm looking forward to Jason Teasley's Drunken Ramblings. Robert,
we're calling it the Black Irish Podcast because he's black and I'm Irish.
Again, when you get fired from WTM for this nonsense, know you have a home. I'll be your Pop TV to their Spike TV.
Oh, an Impact reference. Oh, God.
No, you always have a home here, especially for nonsense like that. Speaking of nonsense like that, tell me all the MMA coverage you're doing.
No. I will tell you part of the MMA coverage I'm doing. This Saturday, we'll be covering UFC on ESPN4, which I think is going to wind up as like a public service announcement that will come on at odd hours and just say, this is what happens when heavyweight fights happen to good cards.
How much do you think the Pacquiao fight's going to bite into this nonsense you're covering?
Probably not all that much.
You don't think so?
This is not a very well-promoted card to begin with. I don't think there's a lot of buzz behind it. I don't think Pacquiao's going to take too much from it. The main event is good. Main event, again, Rafael dos Anjos, Leon Edwards, two guys kind of in the title orbit. Two of the best clinch strikers in the sport. So I'm really looking forward to that. But then there's heavyweights. There's Walt Harris and Alexei Oleinik, for some reason. There's Greg Hardy versus Juan Adams because they're on ESPN and they're actually in Texas. So, hey, the domestic abuser who played for the Dallas Cowboys must be a big hit, right?
When is What's-His-Face versus Frankie Edgar?
Week after that is Holloway and Edgar.
August 3rd? No. August 27th. No, July 27th.
July 27th, yes.
Why is this not on my calendar?
Because you haven't put it there.
No, I subscribed to like the UFC calendar. That's how I knew about the other thing.
Dude, the UFC on the internet sucks. They are terrible about updating crap.
Okay.
They are just the worst.
Okay, but so the next UFC pay-per-view is July 27th.
Yes.
Alrighty.
As it is currently situated. Might change between now and then because the sport is crazy. Oh, there's also a rematch between Andrei Arlovsky and Ben Rothwell on that card. Their first fight was 11 years ago at Affliction Band when both of them had already been in the sport for over a decade. I hate my life sometimes.
Anything else?
Oh, God. There's no Jeff for the 411 Ground and Pound MMA podcast for last week and the next week. He's busy at San Diego Comic-Con, so it's just me. This coming Sunday, again, it's just me, but it will be a review of that ESPN card and a preview of UFC 240. So many Canadians. I don't know what to do with myself.
Maybe I'll come on. Maybe if I have time to watch a replay of the UFC card, I'll come on and keep you company. I'll hold your hand. I'll caress it gently.
Okay, look, I'm okay talking with you. I'd draw the line at touching.
Thank you, Dean Martin.
Was that actually a Dean Martin line?
It is in one of the movies about the Rat Pack where he says to Sammy Davis Jr. on stage, mind you, so it's somewhat of a bit. He was like, "I'll dance with you, I'll sing with you, I'll even pick cotton with you, but for the love of God, don't touch me."
Oh my God.
So in this relationship, you're Dean Martin and I'm Sammy, baby.
Dean was absolutely the most talented member of the Rat Pack, and I mean unequivocally. And he and Sammy had just some of the funniest bits.
They did. All right, I think we're done here. We've now drifted into talking about the Rat Pack. That's as good a sign as any that we're fucking done with this mess. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you've enjoyed our review of Crawl. For Alexis, for Jason, the prodigal son who has returned to us from places unknown, for the man who hates his life, Robert Winfree, I'm your mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified. Be well, be safe, and behave.
Dunkin' has a whole new line of handcrafted signature lattes. Blueberry Crisp, Caramel Craze, and Cocoa Mocha. They're so delicious, you'll realize that you've been spending a whole latte time drinking the wrong coffee. So even though you've been together for years, it's time to say goodbye to your ex, Coffee Place. Because you've got a latte love for Dunkin's signature lattes. Sipping is believing with Dunkin's new handcrafted signature lattes, like Blueberry Crisp, Caramel Craze, or Cocoa Mocha. America runs on Dunkin'. Price and participation may vary. Limited time offer. Dunkin' has a whole new line of handcrafted signature lattes. Blueberry Crisp, Caramel Craze, and Cocoa Mocha. They're so delicious, you'll realize that you've been spending a whole latte time drinking the wrong coffee. So even though you've been together for years, it's time to say goodbye to your ex, Coffee Place. Because you've got a latte love for Dunkin's signature lattes. Sipping is believing with Dunkin's new handcrafted signature lattes, like Blueberry Crisp, Caramel Craze, or Cocoa Mocha. America runs on Dunkin'. Price and participation may vary. Limited time offer.